spiritual discipline is, and this is according to my guides, the only spiritual discipline you need is to know when you feel good or when you feel bad. Because if you can feel that, you can feel what your alignment is and when it's not. I've made the joke recently, it's like we're playing, a big game of hot and cold with the universe. The closer we get, the more aligned, the better it feels. The further away, the more, misaligned, the worse it feels. So it's that hot and cold thing. But it's like perfect, because if you pay attention, your natural response to things, and they're saying it's like, that doesn't mean triggered response. That means when it's landing on who you really are instead of who you thought you should be. And again, this brings in why it's important to be who you are. Because if you're who you think you should be, you will always be out of alignment, because that's not the reality. The reality is you're only this person, and the true alignment of yourself, not the facade you want to put on, right? Am I going too far with this?
No, you're making perfect sense. I did want to ask you though, so you just mentioned the trigger word, right? So the triggered reaction versus the actual alignment with who you are. So yeah, can you speak more to that? Because I feel like it can get somewhat, at least in the old way, confusing in terms, of if you're upset with,
it's to know,
or checking where you're at,
right? Because we can think ourselves out of alignment. You could say, I should be better than that, and so there's no real place for alignment to happen with you if you're constantly thinking you're not right. Does that make sense? It's like the false self is like, it's a paper bag you put over yourself and you adorn it in however you want. It's like, but that's not who you are. That's who, the put on is. And the put on doesn't always match who you really are. I mean, that's what we're doing a lot, is kind of moving from the mundane perspective of, I should be this, and I should be because. And it's like most of us are trying to find alignments and feel okay in the world. Well, not most of us. Some of us already have it. But, people are trying to be okay in the world. And they got taught a way that was conditional. It was in limitation. It was in fear. It was in judgment. And that's what we're trying to free ourselves from, is like all those aspects of I should be this way that aren't a reality, and most of the should-bes are not. Who you really are shows up as rightness of being, as clarity, as ease, as yes, I am this, regardless of what it is. There's a natural acceptance of isness. My guys always say there's no design flaw in us. There's just misunderstanding. It's like we misunderstand who we're supposed to be. There's no design flaw with you. If you were in alignment and allowed yourself to be in true alignment, your life would flow easily. But you're thinking you need to be something that either you are already, and thinking you need it negates the fact that you're already it. I remember I've told you this, but they're just popping it in my mind. I used to work with this model. She was amazingly beautiful, stunning, and she was mixed race, and she had a real judgment on herself as, not beautiful because she had been teased kind of mercilessly when she was a child. And so she never felt good about herself, and she never got the benefit of being beautiful because she always felt bad about herself. In a weird way, it actually triggered her, but it was trying to trigger her into being the reality of herself instead of the false sense of herself. I mean, that's what a lot of what we're letting go of. But to do that, and that's where you'd say, the universe helps us by triggering us at things that aren't really real. And that's why, it actually does work, because they're saying it's like things that don't feel bad aren't in alignment with you. So it doesn't matter if you're getting triggered old stuff or, what's actually not yours. So you can do that. You can say feels bad, not in alignment. So I don't, but they're saying it's like once you know it's not in alignment with you, you can let it go if you're willing to let it go. But then again, you have to be willing to go, which kind of has consciousness attached to it. You have to be awake and aware enough to see the patterning of what you're doing and why you're trying to do it. A lot of people are trying to prove that they're good enough. And I want to say that's a futile thing to do. There is no proving you're good enough. You are good enough. There is no value assessment on you as a human being. You get to be the version of human being you came in to be. But you came in to be a divine human, and that's a different thing now. And that's why we're shedding all this old. And that, they're saying it's like we try and make it as simple as possible by saying feels good in alignment and doesn't feel good not, because we get overwhelmed with what's right and what's wrong in accordance to too many things that are not us. The world says it. My mom says it. It should be this way. I'm a woman, so I should be this way. And it's like, no, who are you really? Because that's your true alignment. And what you're being in the world is meant to be in the world to support the world in its growth. And that's where it's like a lot of people who get hooked up in this, I'm wrong because the world doesn't accept me at this level. It's like, yeah, because the world needs to grow. Not necessarily because you're bad and wrong.
So the spiritual discipline is coming back to your own alignment.
Yeah, but it's also being conscious of it. Because the problem is that again, I don't want to make vast generalities. A lot of us have gotten used to feeling bad and letting that be okay. And then we just run fear. I mean, that's, and with good reason. Like, when you have a violent childhood or one of neglect or, things being very pointy around you, it's like you learn how to survive that. And it's usually this patterning that comes up. We go into fear states. We feel judged. We feel like we have to protect ourselves, and we start accommodating that way, and that becomes the lens we see the world through. So it's a lot of recreating the sameness because we know how to keep it together. And it's like, that's the point. We don't want to keep it together anymore. Anything that feels bad, why? Why are we holding that to us? Why are we trying to make it okay? And we were taught previously to fix it and make it okay, and you must be wrong because the world's okay and you must be wrong, right? It's like, it cycles again. And they're saying, but it's like, it's not. And the world's not wrong either. We're just evolving. The potential is becoming conscious and clear in what you want and what you don't want. But my supposition is we don't want to invite bad feeling spaces to live with us. We don't want fear. We don't want, all of the things that comes with that. We don't want judgment on ourselves or others, because it diminishes us all, and they're saying it also anchors it there. If you say, I am this way, and you anchor it in, I have no freedom to be anything else from you. You're going to view me through that lens. And the same thing happens to ourselves. It's like we anchor in a way, oh, I'm bad and wrong because I was treated poorly, so I must be. And it's like, I get it. That makes sense, because nothing else makes sense. Like, why would I be abused if there wasn't something wrong with me? And it's like, but it's not. Unfortunately, we've got a lot of people who don't know how to act in this world, and misbehave and blame it on other people. And, and then here we are. But I don't want that to be an excuse. I want you to be free in doing you, being you, and opening up to who you are, no matter what the circumstance, because we all need the freedom of that growth potential, because otherwise it's too dire to live in the world and have it just be as it is, at least for us and those potentially listening to us. There's something more that we're being called to, but it's not a description given by the mundane world. It's a description given by our inner knowing and what feels best to us. And back to, that's the only spiritual discipline, is this in alignment with who you are or not? And innately, what that is, not in your head, in your gut, in your heart, in your, na'au, in every place in you, in the inside of you, that is you, that's the real you and not the put on version of you. You have that. And they're saying it's like, and we forwarded to triggers. It's like, but the triggers need to go too. Everything's alerting you to, I'm a thing that's here and doesn't feel good, which means you're out of alignment. Do you still want me here? And the truth is that as you evolve, you can't hold those spaces. They're just going to get louder and uglier until you're willing to let it go. And some of those things we've used as protection, or, it's like my brick walls were great at keeping me protected, not very great at connecting with other people. It's like, those are the things. It's like, We need to stop using the ways we used to survive our, childhood or our mundane life, our misunderstandings of who we thought we were, to become who we really are and start to thrive in those spaces. And that's the thing. They made it as easy as possible. And they're saying, we've talked about this before too. It's like, it's a have to or a get to. And that's a positioning of, it's like, some people can't always tap into what feels good and what doesn't because we're so used to like jumping back and forth or just kind of having a layer of fear underneath everything. And so we never get a clear read on that. But if you ask yourself, is this a have to, like I have to do it and what a drag? Or is it a get to, like that's exciting? And it's like you can pretty much separate it off and it very well will align with what feels good and what feels bad. But that's our innate knowing, and we've been told that must be wrong and inaccurate this whole time, and it's like, no, it's exactly right for us. It's not right necessarily for the entire world, but that's where it's like, that's where it helps to accept other people and where they are and what they're doing and all of that, so we don't keep like, running people into the ground with our old expectations of it should be this way. Should be nothing. Should's an indicator, one of those red flag words that says I'm pointed in the wrong direction.